and we are beaming back to Discovery, everybody, to talk about something Star Trek Discovery related. We got new images. You guys asked us to look at them, so here we are. Stuart, I had a pun at the start. Are you proud?
Yeah, it was very punny. I loved it. It was something I would do, and yes, I rolled my eyes. So there you go.
Transporter room, guys. So we had a transporter room when we were in Ticonderoga, released. Quite controversial.
Oh, yes.
And now we have a new transporter room. Now, I've got some things contextually about this, but what are your first thoughts, Stuart? Because it came out of nowhere, and we got a lot of pictures all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I love it. I mean, it's beautiful, it's big, it's bright, and it ties in with TOS and Enterprise, ironically enough. So it's a nice tie-in for both. I mean, it obviously ties into the cage as well because they were using the regular transporter room then. So
yeah,
we've got all of our bases covered in this one. Plus, it's kind of got the more modern colors of like Voyager and TNG, kind of bright. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts on it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, my initial thought was, oh, look at that, they're doing Stowe designs. That's nice. Stowe being Star Trek Online. It's clearly Star Trek, but boy, is it big. Which is Star Trek's hallmark. We've talked to them. Everything's like 30 to 40% bigger than it should be because obviously the camera and stuff. So it's clearly a Star Trek transporter room, just bigger than it should be. I know lenses distort images, but you can see that two people fit on one of the pads. And we have both stood on pads of the TOS set multiple times. It's a one-person pad. I know you like if you hug, you can do two. But it's meant for one, and so you can tell the scale is at least like I said about 30% bigger.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's saying there's big aliens that we're gonna see. Like, I don't know about that, but well that's my only big criticism is that it looks like a spoof thing because it doesn't feel functional in the same way. Beyond it, I mean, if you want to go really into the technobabble of it, you could also double up as a cargo transporter, so you can have two pads. And you can beam cargo into two pads, and therefore need to be bigger. Or it's an evacuation transporter pad, which means each pad can do 3 people, so you can do whatever 16 people at a go. That sort of technobabble reason. But as a stand, I mean, people had a go at us for saying, "Oh, the Shinzao's so big and Discovery's whatever." Like, we got inside source about that, and guess what? This corresponds to a bigger style starship. Obviously, we had like in TNG things were still small because low budget. And then X1 obviously very small, and TOS it was a certain size. But this again speaks to they've gone big, a la JJ. So those are some of my thoughts, Stuart. What do you think about the thoughts?
I think your thoughts are well thought out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, how many times though do they have to beam somebody on, like holding somebody? I've seen it a few times. So having a bigger transporter pad is better for accommodating that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, when Kirk had to hug his evil self so they could be merged back together, things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with the bigger transporter pad. I never once thought it was kind of spoofy, like you said.
It's just form follows function, and so it should have a reason for being that huge. Is all I'm thinking. That's a lot of your saucer to take out. If you're like 5 transport rooms, it's like a lot of space.
It could just be that it's older tech because it's older than TOS, and as we've talked about before, when things get more advanced, sometimes they get smaller. Could be the case for the pads. But anyway, I don't necessarily think that's the case, but I'm just trying to put out all the points there.
Yeah, so. No, absolutely, yeah.
I do love that it maintains the whole step up to the transporter pad, because as we've talked about in our Technology episode on transporters, that's to prevent things from drifting onto the pad, like static electricity and stuff, which can screw with your day, probably. That'd be bad. But so it ties a lot of things in, and the thing I find interesting, the first transporter room that we had a look at with those big wheels behind them, I have a feeling that's an older ship, probably the Shinzao, and this would be the Discovery, I would hope, because the thing that ties it together visually for me is those black pads in the background.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
but and we talked about that in our last episode on the transporter room, where some of them are kind of crooked and they're just kind of like, they look like car mats almost.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is the exact same thing. From what I can see, it looks very similar, and looks like some are hanging crooked. There's actually one in the middle there that's kind of hanging a little bit crooked at the bottom.
Yeah, well, it creates a 3D feel or something.
Yeah. But overall, I really like the design, and it does... The shapes that are there are very reminiscent of Enterprise, the smaller transporter.
Yep.
So, like I said, the tie-in from Enterprise and TOS, this was beautifully done, beautifully thought out, well designed and conceptualized. So, the addition of the part in the middle, I think, really adds something to it. I love that addition. There's actually a picture here, kind of a silly picture, but you can see it lights up also, and I don't know if there's going to be an effect there every time they beam out. That would be kind of neat.
Not.
Well, I think it'd be kind of neat. There's looks like there's emitters on the top and bottom.
Sure.
So it could be that could be a cargo or a probe transporter or something.
My thought behind that is that's needed because when you got such a big room, just in the sense of upgraded from Enterprise era, that they have to something that stabilizes the fields, actually in the middle, so like that it's firing particles out that help stabilize when it activates. Whereas in the later versions you just don't need that. So that's having more stuff, like I said, bulkier stuff, more stuff, like another piece to the puzzle. It's like the NX-01, it has to have that warp stabilizer in the middle of the engines because it can't. Yeah. That's part of the technology. But just double up on what you were saying, and this is when you're completely correct. If you go back to the original picture that we had, if you look through a trailer, you can tell the time jump cue, which is Michael Burnham's character has straight, short black hair in this first one, and also was with Michael Yeoh, who I guess survives. Awesome. And this next picture, obviously, we've got now the Captain of Discovery, which implies at least it is. I mean, that gives it away it's the Discovery, but if you look at her hair, she's now got like an afro style, which is a completely different hairstyle. And you notice in the trailer they cut between these two things, so an obvious way to show time difference is by changing the look. And so, I would 100% say this is the Shinzo. Haven't learned that yet. Sorry, guys. That's that Transformer which is meant to be old, and therefore really old, just really strangely old. And then this one is the one before Cage, which obviously it looks as if it is. I mean, obviously it's too advanced, but I mean, visually, again, it's like we said originally, we said in other videos, you take the design, if you go far enough away, it looks identical, but as soon as you get close, it looks more advanced. So they've taken the transporter room shape, which you can tell is in transporter room, you just added stuff to make it look unique. And I like the fact it's got girders, it looks less advanced. A lot of lighting, they're really pushing the self-lighting thing. I know that a lot of TV shows now are literally just saying, right, this is how we're lighting this set. We're going to put a small fill light, maybe a mini light on their face, but it'll be all self-illumination, so it'll feel more real, more integrated, rather than in TOS. It's like you're lighting the walls, then suddenly you're lighting their faces, and each character is completely different lighting. It's like, there's a great shot I watched with you, in fact, that Uhura, she's been lit from a different direction than Kirk, and it's like, you understand neither of these shots can exist on this bridge based on lighting. This is weird and silly. And
just like 2 days ago, I was watching an episode of TOS, and they were in the sick bay, and they were casting like 4 different shadows because there were so many lights on them.
Yeah, that's like standard in TOS. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, trying to light that in CG is like there is no single light point. There are
kind of 4
ridiculous.
lights and 4 shadows.
But yeah, no. So as aesthetically, it's great. Again, it looks like a Galaxy Quest transporter room. We've taken the because you can't copyright 6 cylinders on the top and the bottom, but this looks far enough away from classical TOS to be different, but at the same time is familiar. But how do you compare this to the JJ stuff? I mean, those rooms were smaller, big bubbles on the floor.
Yeah. Again, the JJ, in my opinion, the JJ transporter room really missed the mark. I mean, it did have the shielding for the operator, which we see in the motion picture, and all the movies. Basically, they have a shield between the transporter room, the transporter pad, and the operator. So the JJ thing carried that over. This might do that as well. I haven't seen the console, the rest of the transporter room. So as far as we know, it might still carry that over.
I'm just looking through. Obviously, we haven't got every picture in front of us, but I did a quick Google, and in fact, the NX-01 transporter room had these. Basically, had girders, but more inside the wall with lights going up. So it's a direct reference to that, which is very nice. But if you look at the JJ transporter room, they had lights in the. I mean, the transporter room is very, very, very similar. It just has domes on the floor, weird top bits. but it's actually very similar to TOS. But like I say, it has those steps have lights. So it's basically a meld between JJ and Enterprise and a bit of TOS refinement. Which, I mean, you got the blues and the whites of JJ and the blues and the whites of the NX. So it's kind of, well, I guess the more reds, but lights and such. So it's a very interesting combination for sure, and takes us in a new direction.
Another thing I want to point out, there was a visual tie-in with this new transporter room that I looked really familiar, and I thought, okay, it's the Enterprise, the way the girders are as well. But if you look, it's very similar to V'ger, the way V'ger's set up with the lights going out from V'ger. It looks almost exactly the same as that. So maybe the Discovery and V'ger run into each other at some point.
Canon. Boom.
No. So, no. Overall, I'm impressed. I think this is much better than the first one we saw, for sure.
But that's the thing. If you make a very un-Star Trek one and then suddenly have a better one, like, then you make it look better.
But this would have looked good as the first one to see. This one is a transporter room to me. This is a perfect reimagining for me of a TOS.
But how do you update this again to get to Cage even? This looks way too advanced anyway. How do you double update it and not, unless you de-advance it by getting smaller and stuff. But for an audience, you see the Shenzhou version, you can see the jump. You can see a jump in tech to this very, very easily.
Tying things in visually with the modern look is very difficult when you go back to TOS. We've had this discussion many, many times.
Yeah.
It could be too. You were talking about the big transporter pads. I just had a thought. I know, like, the original Enterprise has like 4 transporter rooms, 6-person ones each. Maybe the Discovery only has 1 or 2. Therefore, bigger pads to accommodate more. Yeah.
I just don't think they thought that through, because we're adding way too much thought. They had a design, they'd put it together.
That's what we do, though.
Yeah, I want to address one little thing that I've been seeing. The whole anthology idea was confirmed that it was a pitch by Brian Fuller, and people are saying it would be too expensive to do anthology shows. If you look at this set, if you build it in appropriate size and looks like TOS or TNG or this one set to build, this cost more than 2 transporter rooms built to TNG and Voyager standards. Maybe not Voyager, but you know what I mean. You could build, if they budget is fine, but you build the small sets like the original shows, the budget goes a lot further. If you build these big elaborate sets, then obviously it's going to take $6 million to make the show. If you build really intricate things, it's going to be more expensive. If you build canonical things, it'll be cheaper. I mean, they can build TOS engineering rooms for literally tens of thousands of dollars. They're not very,
It's just to have something built this size, you can redress it for another era if you really want to, because it's already big enough that you just change a few things and don't have to worry about.
That's interesting. Yeah, if you put some circle walls around,
it's already a big size, so you can do what you want. If you start out with a small one, you got to build a new set to make a bigger one. The bigger the room is, the easier it is to redress it into different versions of the set, instead of having to build a whole new set, because the first one you built was too small. So
that is a wonderful point, Stuart. Yeah, you could easily update this to again bridge that gap by just filling in the walls. Now you've got a small room. Now it's awesome.
So
cool.
But anyway, guys, I think that's probably it for a look at the transporter room. Unless you have anything else to add, Samuel.
Good job. Wish we'd seen this one first, but again, you show us the clearly worse quality piece that doesn't work, and we all jump at well done for a better piece, but it's a common sense piece, so they shouldn't get as much praise, because it's like that's how you should design transport. Oh, expectations.
Indeed.
Crazy things.
Anyway, guys, what do you think of the transporter room? Let us know in the comments below. Looking forward to reading those. If you like this video, click the like button. And we got more Discovery stuff. Check out our other videos. We've kind of broken down all the trailers, everything we've seen so far. It's kind of what we do here. So
pretty in depth, and we try to link it to canon and shout out where it's good, where it's bad. Be fair about it, because hey, this stuff works on its own. But how does it work in canon or Prime or reboot? Or try and be fair, and we hope you guys appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, guys, tune in for more, and we will see you next time. So until then, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Guns.
And we are Trekyards. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.